Top of the morning, lads and ladies. Support for the Awfully Irish podcast is now brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming.
Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels, and you're no longer need the look of the Irish with the ladies. Manscaped just launched in Ireland. We've gone years without using the right tools for the job. You can now be one of the first men in Ireland to experience their life-changing products.
Your balls will thank you.
Get 20% off and free shipping with the code IrishPod at manscaped.com.
That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code IrishPod. Start recording. And here we are.
Welcome back. How are you getting on, everybody? Today, we're joined with a very special Pol Seoige. Paul, how about you tell them about yourself?
Thanks for that, Thomas, and Jared. Great to be on Awfully Irish. Felt I needed to talk out. You could have this interview short and sweet if you guess what cup of tea I'm drinking here. I think that would tell a lot about an Irishman abroad. First of all, that he has to import tea, and secondly, whether it's the infamous Barry's or the other one, Line. So, if I can give away the answer, any guesses there, lads? What do you think I'm drinking?
You're drinking the poor man's tea. But anyway.
Which is poor man's tea then?
Barry's. God no. Lions all the way. I'm sorry now.
Look, listen. It's from the real captain. Barry's is all Barry's. I'm telling you that. Barry's are not sponsoring me, but they're keeping me going here. So
they should.
Thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Of course. So if you're listening and you notice that Thomas was the one who said the person's name today, it's because I tried about 3 times and failed. Pol Seoige.
Yeah. Perfect. You got it in one there.
There you go.
You're a big player. It's for the big game that you come in, Jared.
Yeah, no, it's a rough one. There's been some hard names on the show, but so you know, the Irish one is the one that gets me eventually. Okay. So, Paul, tell us a bit about yourself.
Better take a bigger drink of that. A bit about myself. Well, I'm from the People's Republic of Mayo, greatest place on earth. I think the first time I mentioned to a big audience that I was from Mayo was when I was over in London, and I was doing this infamous TV show at the time. It was a thrilling concept for a man came down an elevator, he stepped out, and there was 30 women in front of him. A show that will never ever happen the other way around, no matter how equal we become in the gender world. Because there'd be uproar, but it's okay. Feed a man to the lions, you know. So I was told by the producers, it's not a scripted show, but I was told by the producers to say I'm from Dublin, you know, and I said I'll get shot if I say I'm from Dublin. And we agreed before I went out that I was going to say I was from Dublin, and went out in the elevator and introduced myself. Good evening, ladies. My name is Paul, and I'm from County Mayo, and made sure everyone knew that I was from Mayo, and that, you know, that's why I'm still alive today. But I think anyone from Mayo, I know you've had a few great guests from across the world. You know, I mean, well, I love what your podcast is
from Mayo, in all fairness.
Well, I wasn't going to say that, Jer, but what I was going to say was that, you know, you've had amazing actors, Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit. You've had, you know, actors from Breaking Bad, and you've even had an Irish Jesus on your show. And I still think, you know, the funniest people are from Mayo. So you know, we're there with the best of them. You know, the Hardy Bucks. You have the 3 books left. You know, Stevie and the boys. So. I know you can pick the best of them, so big shout out.
Yeah, I suppose you were talking earlier about what it's like. You're saying that radio was overcomplicated and something like this is a lot more simple. And you can do the work of a whole radio crew with 2 people. But, you know, you're saying that with experience. You used to be on Midwest Radio. Mm-hmm. I suppose tell us what that's like, or what it was like.
Well, I'm like working on local radio is serious crack. Like, it is serious crack. You can be doing a radio show, and first of all, you get a period to play the music in. So mine was 70s to 90s. It was a Sunday evening, just after the sport. Like, I obviously love sport, so you know, you know all the details of what happened and this, that, and the other, and you know, big shout out to the underdogs team. They're after beating a town team or whatever it is, and you know, you'd have like Thomas has texted in from road, and he's someone left the gate open, and his sheep have taken off towards Westmeath. And if anyone in the Mayo area has spotted these sheep, you know, call into Midwest, this, that, and the other. dogs went missing, people went missing, people were calling us looking for the local doctor. It was hilarious. Like you couldn't write it half the time. And the two guys who set it up, they actually released a book about 10 years ago. It'd be hilarious to find it. But it in the book, they actually documented some of the text messages and calls and phone calls that came into the radio station of people being deadly serious, looking for different things, missing dogs, tractor overturned in the bog, this, that, and the other. So honestly, it was a great show because at the same time, Mayo is a county that we have a massive amount of immigration. So at the same time, you'd be doing a late evening show, but you'd have text messages coming in from the US and Australia and these places of people listening in, and they just want to listen in because they miss home or whatever else. And like, it'd mean a lot to them to give them a shout out and this, that, and the other. And, I was on the radio till pretty recently. So, it hasn't changed even with the likes of social media coming along. And I think that it's still important for a lot of people because a lot of people, look back on people they grew up watching on TV or listening to on the radio, and they just were part of, their makeup and the culture of where they came from. And I suppose a great example of that is cringy and all that it is. But the toy show there during the week, the annual Christmas toy show on RT had massive numbers. You know what I mean? So it's the same way we were.
How hard that is to explain to someone from the States.
Oh yeah,
the toy show and how big.
Toy show.
That was nearly a
great,
holiday in Ireland.
Did you watch the toy show? It was brilliant this year. I thought it was great.
I don't watch it anymore.
So no, I had more fun things to do than watch the toy show. But like obviously, you do be going through your Twitter feed or whatever else, and you have a few clips, and there's a young musician on from Mayo, and I obviously watched that because you have to big up the next generation of heroes on the way. And he was joined with Dermot Kennedy on stage, and that video obviously got a lot of hits, this and the other, because they're pretty good at the feel good stories. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a bit daft, a bit like the Rose of Tralee, but like it's still an institution, and like people tune in to watch it. And if you're away from home, you're probably feel more you want to tune into things like that because it brings back good memories and nostalgia. And nostalgia always wins. You know what I mean? Like nostalgia gives them a comfort. You know what I mean? So and that's the same way when I was on the radio, I got more into like say 70s disco and 80s disco and stuff like that because I was playing a lot of these tracks, and I realized that a lot of these tracks are actually being sampled today. So the people today are not as cool as you think they are. They're just sampling stuff from back in the day when these people were making real music with real instruments. In a big studio with a lot of people involved. It wasn't just one guy sitting there on a laptop. You know what I mean? And I think there's a lot more respect that comes along with that sort of thing. And you begin to understand that and respect that when you work on radio. And again, that's when you go back to what was it like working there. One of the greatest jobs ever, and genuinely like a great job to have. Would have been more beneficial like years ago when you could have actually used it for more being more of an ambassador for different events, or in a kind of a commercial capacity. Yes, where today obviously a lot of that weight has been taken away by YouTube and say some influencers or as they modernize it, but it's still a good buzz. And I think a lot of people appreciate a natural person on the radio, just talking to them, not talking at them.
Yeah. You always want to feel like you're part of the conversation and part of the fun. And local radio, there's plenty of it in there. We have a local radio station. What's it? Eden FM?
Something like that.
And, some of the stuff they come out with is hilarious. But only problem is not too often when they're on. But look, you know the story.
Yeah, but you probably have iRadio up there as well, and Midlands Radio, and
oh yeah, we have iRadio, Midlands on the tree.
I used to be a big fan of iRadio.
Yeah.
And then I stopped listening.
Yeah, well, I think also you grew up because their people are more for kind of teenagers and that sort of thing, So maybe the college crowd. I mean, it worked for them. What I was thinking when I was looking at your channel over the last while was that fair play on the two boys from Offaly, getting sponsored by a sponsor that I thought mightn't really fit with Awfully Irish, but it shows that the men of 2020 in Ireland are looking after themselves.
No.
And where the ads on Midwest Radio would talk about, the local co-op have a deal on dairy nuts or whatever else. The boys in Awfully Irish are not sponsored by Guinness or Cadbury's or Aer Lingus, but no, Manscaped. And I'm very impressed. I was like, I'll go on there anyways, and I might get an old Christmas present better than using the shears or a lawnmower. You know what I mean?
Shears. Actually, funny enough, their thing is called a lawnmower. One of their things is called a lawnmower. And a weed whacker. They're unreal. They're hilarious the way
They're
they do
funny. Their ads are actually so
it. Look
funny.
at this. I'll pull out the box here. My little golden box. Now imagine opening this for the first time, yeah? First ever sponsor of anything ever.
Look at this. Ah! It's hilarious.
And actually, look. They gave us a newspaper. I'll move on from this fast. But look at this. Look at this. We say balls.
So this is what I was thinking, because you were asking about local radio. On local radio, I would have to read out some of the adverts. You know what I mean? So this week down in Jer's Groceries, we've got a special on bananas. You know what I mean? And Jer would have a little few words to say on his banana shop. So like with you boys and the Manscaped thing, I feel like there should be some sort of script you come up with. I can do the reading out for you if you want, of why the young men of Ireland on an awfully Irish podcast should be looking after their balls. With the little lawnmower there.
Yeah.
The offer's on the table.
So when they give you when they used to give you kind of prompts, did they give you like a full on script, or did they give you, here's some talking points, go at it?
We're going back to Take Me Out here. Are we going back to Take Me Out?
No, with the radio.
Oh,
Like,
with the radio.
Ad read,
Okay.
are they telling you, here's some things to talk about, but you know, here's the rest of yourself.
Well, I'll tell you a story that'll kind of answer that in one. So we had to play a certain genre of music. So it was usually from the 70s, or sorry, a certain period of music, 70s to 90s. And I got into liking the likes of Queen more, David Bowie more, Elton John. So I was hinted to play an Elton John track, and a few of them had been playing recently. So I picked out Rocket Man to play. And, you know, there was a few texts in, and the texts in were about the song coming on after it. And I wanted to say something about Rocket Man. So at the time, Donald Trump was visiting Ireland, and I said this was request for Rocket Man was sent in by Donald Trump. He's given a big shout out to his friends over in North Korea who are also listening in. And here's Rocket Man. And I left it at that. And I got a few texts from the lads saying, geez, that was hilarious, da, 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 da. And I took no notice of it. And it was fine till the station manager rang me on Monday going absolutely ballistic of what I said. Even saying the word ballistic there probably wouldn't work out. But we're not on radio now, so... because apparently I was making a mockery of the station. I mean, I was having the crack, and then the two leaders actually met. So maybe I was kind of telling the future as well. So there is a bit of a script, and I think I wasn't sticking to it at times.
You know,
Well, you can't always be sticking to it.
You know,
Yeah.
like it's like this. Like we do this, we can say what we want, but not, you know, we have a limit. But like, you know, we have a
With
fair
personal
deal.
limits, we've no one holding this thing over our head saying good luck to you. It's
What about you know, when you got sponsored by an unusual kind of company in terms of, you know,
They gave
looking
us tips, points, kind of like maybe say that they gave us loads of, it's like, you know, what was it, Jared? Like shave your balls and you'll have the look of the Irish, or like shave.
no, it's you'll no
Shave your
longer need
pants
to look at the
potatoes.
Irish with the ladies.
There's little things like, don't read. One of the hosts must like share a funny story when they cut their balls. We didn't do that one.
But there are certain talking points, but we have to keep it within a minute. And
Yeah.
you know, there's some things that I was not willing to talk about, like that was a weird one. But sure, we'll get past it.
what did your mom say? That's what I want to know. The Irish mother would always have a great
Here's the
answer.
thing. Here's the thing.
Thinks it's a shaving. It's a
said to
shaving
my
thing.
parents,
You shave your beard with it. That's what she
we have to
thinks
get
it
an
is.
offer from this company called Manscaped. Oh, what do they do? Is it men's grooming? You could say that, yeah. So it's below
not
belt
lying.
grooming, and then they're like, go on, you may as well. They're very understanding, like, you may as well. People started with worse sponsors. I actually love Manscaped. It's been pretty cool what we've done with them so far. But you know, remember like when Joe Rogan got his first sponsor, it was for a fleshlight company.
No way.
That was his first sponsor for a long
You're
time.
already better than Joe Rogan.
Well,
I mean, not to put it out there, but yeah.
well he's a big inspiration for anyone doing podcasts. If you got to the Joe Rogan point, you'd be doing fairly well.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
having all kinds of people on.
he is, but you know what? To be honest, I'm picking you lads. Joe was actually calling me after, but you know, I'm going on with you guys first. So
I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
we have conflicting schedules with him as well. It's like, oh, come on today. I have to do UFC stuff. We're like, well, then don't come on at all. Don't be making
You know the
shit
story
up.
with Joe and
I honestly don't think there's any man out there that has not had an accident down there trying to look after the quarters. So fair play to you boys for not telling the story yet, but I'm sure you'll have a story. I'll tune in that day. That's for sure.
I'm sure you will. I appreciate it. I'm glad you'll be supportive. But moving on from slicing your balls. Yeah, no, not to be said about local radio and their music taste, like you were saying. You know, there's some real bangers out there. I moved into this room fairly recently, and I was picking up some furniture with my dad, and we had to rent out a van, and just had the radio on for the whole time. And so some of the music being played is just so spot on. Like they've really nailed it in radio.
Yeah.
I guess through trial and error, and I
It's the
suppose
diff.
they're on all day. But yeah, only so much you can talk about radio. You're also an actor,
I am.
and I suppose,
Acting.
as I was saying to you, that goes back to being Irish. Most lads are always acting the mick, but you know, some take it another far and actually become actors. So, what's it been like for you as an actor?
Honestly, it's a roller coaster. I mean, work in any industry is tough. So if you're working in an industry and you know you're on the peaks and then you're in the troughs at times, but you're enjoying what you're doing, it's great crack. Like it genuinely is great crack. And I think I've often chatted to mates. Like I've been lucky enough to live in about 3 or 4 major cities, and even over in California, first time around, like you have American mates and they'll be asking you like, how do you say that if you're chatting to a girl or whatever else, or how do you do that, blah 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 blah. Because I think as Irish lads, we're just chatting all the time anyways. It doesn't really matter. We talk to the wall.
Yeah.
You know, you've had a few great actors on from Father Ted there, and I remember the famous one who used to talk to. He ended up talking to the Jesus beside him on the couch.
Oh yeah, he's brilliant.
You know what I mean? Like, so Irish people don't have a problem like talking and expressing themselves and telling stories. So with the acting, you're just telling a story. You get a script and it's there, and you have to bring that to life. And I thoroughly enjoy it. It's like honestly, it's great crack. Is there some shows that are horrendously boring and you probably won't watch them back yourself? Yeah, of course they are. But there's so many like possibilities and even auditions. Like I've done a couple of auditions there recently for some Netflix shows that are coming on in January and February, keeping the fingers crossed for them. And you know, like just to have the opportunity to be around, you know, great people like that is, you know, it's great because a lot of actors have a lot of great stories to tell about, you know, where they came from too. And a lot of them came from real life experiences and then turn a life around in acting. Because as I said, you're just making words come off the page and come alive and making that character believable.
Yeah. And you know, it's not as easy as you're saying it is, like just reading off and hoping it goes well. Acting is hard, and not just for the job itself, but climbing the ladder, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's very hard to be in the next big Netflix show and so on. We're having a chat there, like, you got 50 lads in there auditioning for the same thing. But it doesn't need to be as complicated as it is.
Completely. Like, you go into some studios and there's old guys in there with ginger hair and beards. I was like, Jesus, I didn't know there's that many guys with ginger hair and ginger beards knocking around. You know what I mean? So, you know, you're not that unique after all. But there is no need to have, you know, 50 to 60 to 70 people in on auditions. I've had a few auditions that I've taken more seriously because I've realized that there's only about 10 to 15 in the mix for this position as a lead role. And you try harder, of course you do. But like, it's hard to get pumped every time if it's another audition where there's like, you know, 50 other people going in for it.
Yeah.
One good thing about the scamdemic is that you can do a lot of, you know, self-tape auditions at home. And then when you get called into the studio, that means they really want to have a look at you and see if you bounce off the crew pretty well or bounce off the creative director pretty well as well, or the casting director. So that gives you a better insight because you get very little insight in the acting world. You know, if you do an audition or you do a show, you never really get told how you've got on. I suppose the best way to kind of manage that when the shows do come out is probably just, you know, take both sides of it because you learn. I try not to listen to either of them, whether you're done good or bad. I just try just work harder on the next one, because if
Yeah.
you get too high in your own supply, you're doing a massive job there, that this, that, and the other. Well, a lot of it reflects on who you're acting with, and if you're acting with more experienced actors, I mean, you're going to be kind of showing up, So you have to rise all the time. Like,
I like that.
Yeah.
That point, not big, like for myself, like I watch my podcast like maybe 10 times a day just because I'm great. But like, don't go around thinking you're Mr. Big Shit. You're completely right. I agree. Yeah.
What?
Not what?
What? It's funny. The episode before this, he was like, I cannot stand listening to our podcast. I actually don't know how people listen to us. It's awful. But I actually say the same thing when they do something. It's like if you go back and watch your stuff, you nearly cringe at your own scenes. Like I had like a small, like little tiny moment in Normal People, like as an extra, so you barely noticed me.
It was fucking crazy, man. I
mean, a bit more than that, Thomas.
Paul Mescott was on the screen, and then Jared's back of the head, man. It was fucking crazy.
I was
mad.
I was trying to like not watch it because I was like, I'm just gonna be sitting there like, where the fuck is my shoulder? So, like, and I we've had actors on it, like, if I go back and watch my stuff, I want to get sick. We had Bruce Thomas on. He was a UPS guy in Legally Blonde. So he's also in the new Call of Duty Cold War. But he cannot go back and watch one of his old movies, because you just kind of cringe at the idea of like, I was like that, because you're always progressing as an actor.
Yeah. I think maybe I try and take a lot of learning from sport. I think you just have to keep moving forward. Whatever your result was, a win or a loss, it doesn't really matter. If you don't do anything about it, you're going to stay in the same place. And I'm pretty competitive. So like, honestly, as I said to you beforehand on the phone, like, unless you were constantly on, Netflix shows or in big screen theaters, like you have to keep progressing all the time and learning different crafts along the way. I'm a pretty sporty guy, but I've started training myself in stunts as well, because I'm trying to use the kind of athletic side of me in that sort of thing too, because it's a big industry, but you might not always be the next James Bond. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
it's a really good idea
you
to bring stunts into it. Yeah, that's super smart.
Yeah, actually, stunts have it fairly well. But but you're not going to be the next James Bond, because there's so many guys going for it. Like, you could be brilliant. You could prove us wrong. Could be interviewing you 3 months from now. You're next James Bond. You don't know. But the way they, I don't know.
I mean, a Meath man done it. So like, if a Meath man done it, a Mayo man can do it. And
you can do it twice.
There's a lot of we just have to get one up on them since 1996. Not that I keep going on about it, but it was robbery, and why not? I'll definitely let you know, Jared. I'll shoot you a text when I'm.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, Jared, I'm after getting cast as James Bond. I'm too big for your podcast. We'll delete it there.
You delete it. Yeah, said some dodgy stuff. Would you mind?
Honestly, Thomas, I wouldn't even hold a grudge. It'd be more like, Jared, still looking for one of those new shears that you have. I'm now James Bond.
Send us one over there, and I might shout you out. It all depends.
It depends. But yeah, no, there's something like, there'll never be another Tom Cruise.
No.
Well, there is. There's his lookalike we had on. He was great. He was a great guy to talk to. But no, there'll
never be another Sean Connery. That's for a fact.
Absolutely not. No.
Yeah. Like, or Mads Mikkelsen. There's some actors you'll never ever replace. Like, when they're gone, they're gone. Like, you gotta milk these guys dry before they're gone. Like Hugh Jackman, we got a couple more Wolverines out of him. He doesn't want to do it. We've got
not too much. I don't know if either of you saw The Irishman, but honestly, it was so bad over here, because first of all, it's called The Irishman, and if you are an Irish person, they're like, "Is this about Ireland? Is there Irishmen in it? This, that, and the other?" I was like, "No, there's some great actors that have just destroyed their eternal memories by acting in this crappy 8.5-hour show that was just promoted forever." And it was terrible. And I honestly don't know who was looking after what sort of agents, De Niro and the boys have, but I'd have an old word. You know what I mean? It was horrendous.
Well, I think the thing with the movie was they planned to do it 10 or 15 years before they actually did. And then it just got sidelined. And then I suppose Scorsese's pretty old as well. and it was kind of like it's kind of now or never, guys. So with all respect, those in all fairness, those guys are definitely going into retirement soon.
Mm.
But no, I thought it was a decent movie. Um,
I mean, De Niro only
I
has
thought the
like
de-aging thing was just really cool, and it kind of brings to the forefront what we can do with actors nowadays, and how we can extend an actor's range. You could be whoever you are. You could have a range from between like 35 to like 45. You could play anyone in that range. With now with de-aging technology or so on, you could play any age.
Well, I mean, I don't think I would turn down a possibility of being in the next, American Pie rerun. I mean, it seemed like a bit of crack. There's always a few girls knocking around as well, but I don't know. At times, I think you'd feel terribly out of place. You know what I mean? You don't want to ruin it like they did in The Irishman, for example. You can't have Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci with kids pretending that's their kids, because it just looks like something out of a kind of a crime series that'll be coming up soon. You know what I mean? So. It just didn't work, and I'm surprised at something that scale they made that many mistakes. And kind of, for people that might know the actors that are younger people, might be like, God, they're horrendous. That was terrible.
One problem with De Niro for it was, he had the face of a younger man, but he was kind of hobbling like an older man. You can't change the body, but you can change the face.
Yeah.
And I've seen people like redo the de-aging on him to make him look like he did in Goodfellas. And that would have worked a lot better.
Yeah.
They kind of half-assed it, and they could have went further. But then, at what point does it become disrespectful to the actor? Like, oh, De Niro, just fucking stand there, do your stuff. We're going to de-age you about 30, 35 years. Is that all right? Okay, well, here's a bunch of money.
Exactly. They must have just been hungry. They must have been hungry, you know what I mean? Because what they could have done is had other actors play De Niro when he's younger or whatever else, and it might have worked. But
like what they did with The Godfather.
With The Godfather, exactly, and that would have worked better. But however, I don't think De Niro's talking about me tonight, so I don't really care.
You never know.
This podcast with the Awfully Irish is perfect. This guy is hilarious, and he gets.
What's that there, De Niro? You're looking for Pol. He's busy. All right.
And it gets to the part where you're just slandering. He was like, "Oh, that's such a shame. He was going to be the next me."
I was going to play him in another movie.
Good. But how did you start off as an actor? Because you didn't wake up at one day, or maybe you did. Tell us all about it.
I don't know.
I mean, it's funny. I probably started off as a radio DJ before I ever done acting, because somewhere at home there's cassette tapes of when I set up Radio Kilos, which is like our little townland village, where I basically spoke into the old radio, the record and pause button, or the play and pause button at the same time. I think the record button as well. And then you taped it, and you tape music on the other side, and you give a big shout out to your mom and dad and your brothers and this, that, and the other. And I used to play it at dinner time. So I obviously loved the whole radio side of things, because you could play that tape on a bigger tape recorder, and it was hilarious. With the acting side of things, I suppose like reality TV shows they have changed in terms of they're more soft acting than reality TV. And I suppose when I was on that show, what I noticed was they kept trying to script me and kept trying to,
even changing where you're from. That's kind of dodgy, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, God, it's an awful thing to do. So they were trying to change things a little bit. I was just myself, whether that was a pro or a con. I thought it was a pro, to be honest, because to this day you still get people that remember you from it and give you positive feedback and whatever else. But I did notice a lot of the people from those shows kind of went into the acting world. Over in England would have been Hollyoaks and Coronation Street, and then other shows like Big Brother and this, that, and the other. So England, and I suppose Great Britain as a whole, are more into their kind of little celebs more than we are in Ireland. And obviously America is on a different level again. But what I noticed from a very standard gaming show that a man comes down the elevator was that a lot of these people became little celebs themselves, and I don't know what for half the time, to be honest with you, but they became that way. And I never wanted to be one of those, but what I did like was the acting side of things, because I felt it's pretty cool to bring a script alive. It's something that's been invented out of thin air. or you're, you know, reenacting the life of, you know, a great hero. For example, in Ireland, it might be, you know, one of the films, you know, relating back to, say, Michael Collins, or, you know, some of the characters in The Name of the Father or something like that. And maybe that might be some story that you might tell in the future or whatever else. And, you know, there's a lot of Irish heroes that have never had their stories told about, say like Cathal Brugha, for example, you know, or even Arthur Griffith. And I feel like these were men were ahead of their time, and they're actually politicians that, you know, done something for the good of the people. And I don't know where that got, you know, corrupted along the way. But, you know, there's always that hope, I suppose, as an actor. You can tell a story that you can really become part of that character. You don't want to do a Heath Ledger on it, but you want to really become part of that character. And you know, I've done it myself in the roles that I've been in, and it's enjoyable. And you know, the studying along with it obviously helps. Like, for example, when I've done cop roles, I've interviewed cops myself, and I've actually hung out with detectives that I've got to know through their knowledge on screens, where they actually, you know, give sort of advice to on-screen actors. That when you get to learn what they deal with day to day, you really get to know the role a lot better, you know. And I always try and kind of school myself on the role as best I can, because I think you have to have a realistic element to it, and then it makes it more believable.
Yeah. I don't say that. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose. 'Cause it just, you made me think halfway through when you brought up that you were interviewing people from their roles. You've also been interviewed before. You've done interviews with people that you've admired and so on. Like you were saying earlier, you want to do stunts because you want to take advantage of the fitness part. You're a strong man, so like you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like that to be a compliment. That's what you do, and
Yeah.
you've interviewed people in that field. So I suppose tell us a bit about how interviewing people has helped you along the way. 'Cause we do it every day. There's
Yeah, of course.
plenty of benefits to it.
Well, I really feel that you get to know someone very, very quickly in an interview. And I think if you're lucky enough to be the host or the person conducting it, that they really open up to you in those few minutes. And there's a fine line between pushing a question that's maybe a bit personal, and also exploring a side of them that maybe they didn't even fully comprehend till they said the words themselves, you know. So, you know, for me, I got to interview, for example, in the like, I love sports. So
You've done plenty.
I've done plenty myself. I played a high level of Gaelic football, played soccer through university. The one sport I really regret not really going after. I had too much love for Gaelic football. The only reason I ended up playing on the university soccer team was that I didn't make Segerson team, and that broke me. And I was playing soccer and walked onto a team that lost an All-Ireland final to UCD that I still remember to this day, and it's kind of like, it annoys me. But no, with the soccer, I feel like there's a lot of opportunities there, and you know, my heart rules my head more in that regards. A few years down the line, I was you know, keeping fit for the Gaelic by doing boxing in the wintertime, and we were part of different like a stable of boxers that, you know, firstly participated in white collar fights and helped charities, and then I started doing those fights on an amateur carded basis. Ended up fighting in the national arena, you know, which was fantastic. And the thing is, with like with a lot of sports, you need to learn these motor skills when you're very, very young. So I had decent skills crossed over from, you know, other sports like Gaelic or soccer, but the ducking and the weaving you're not going to pick up, you know, kind of in your mid-20s, you know what I mean? So you can only go so far. It's one sport I really, really wish I started when I was younger, because it's thoroughly enjoyable. It's very, very rewarding, you know, when you do well, and when you lose, you have to learn pretty fast, because you can only blame yourself. You know, there's no one else in there when you're in an individual sport. And the strongman, it came about, a lot of it, I had an interest in it over the years. I trained one or two lads who I was friends with that were in those competitions, because, you know, the infamous gym I went to in Dublin was called Raw, and at the time it was an institution for training. And I met guys from various sports. And one of my friends, Conor Keogh, he was on the Irish team, a strongman, and I used to train with him the odd time. And I respected the sport, that it was a sport that made you strong for life. You know what I mean? It wasn't just about physique and kind of the posing stuff. It was actually real strength, and the people were very humble people. So doing strongman here has been great, because, you know, there's a couple of Irish lads doing it, and we kind of represent ourselves. So we had Adam from Cork, Warren from Kildare, and myself from Mayo. We represented like Ireland in Ontario over at a place called Caledonia in about 2 hours from Toronto, and we were representing Ireland in that like because everyone else is obviously Canadian, so it was kind of a cool thing. So I had Girth 47 sponsored the boys in that, and it was a kind of a nice team effort to be doing, because in 2020 there's not many games that you can be participating in or sports you can participating in, but luckily strongman was one sport that kind of survived that. So I've got into it over the last while, and I'll be focusing on it into the future, because it's a sport that you can do as you go on in years too, because you can train individually and perform individually as well. So yeah, sport's very, very, very important to me, and I think you can learn a lot from sport in the real world too, whether it's acting or doing interviews or whatever it is. And the interviews that really kind of hit home to me were when I was in Las Vegas interviewing, for example, Ronnie Coleman, or the champ. He's a guy from Liberia who's nicknamed the next Arnold Schwarzenegger. And as I said to you boys, they really opened up to me in a short few minutes. And these boys are huge in the bodybuilding world, and they're professional athletes, because my interviews before that were mainly with amateur athletes, which again I feel often deserve more because they're amateur. They're trying to run their life while doing this sport. But these guys were professionals, and it was my first time kind of interviewing real professionals in their respective fields, and it really made me think about how successful they are in their field and how they've used that to combat other problems in their life. There's a guy I interviewed called Julius Maddox, and he's going for one of the strongest men in the world soon enough, and like that man battled depression, so he's only here on this planet because he battled his depression through training. And that's why I love sport as well, is that it's the feel good factor, and it's kind of a harmless feel good factor. I don't know, you get injuries or whatever else, but it makes people feel good, and it's terrible that sort of stuff is taken away from you with this sort of Corona, COVID, whatever you want to call it, situation.
Pain in the ass.
What was that?
I said a pain in the ass.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It really has affected so many people. It's so bad.
It's been awful. But it's also the reason we started the podcast. It wasn't happening otherwise.
No, geez.
I got
listing
too
all the
bored.
terrible stuff that's happened, man. Will you? Come on now.
I got bored of sitting in front of the computer the whole day, so now I do it every day.
But honestly, that's a great thing to say, Ger, that like you have to be positive in life, and this thing hit everyone whether we like it or not. And there you go. Awfully Irish podcast mightn't exist only for this scam-demic, so
What a shame.
maybe Pfizer might sponsor you next,
You never know.
Never know, man.
Yeah.
We're always open to it.
Please
Pfizer,
don't.
if you're listening, and we know you are, because come on, it's the Awfully Irish
Stop,
podcast.
please.
All right.
Oh God, that's one I would say no to.
They have us
I
on
hope
the
they
back
kept
when
it
they're
in
making the vaccine.
Yeah. God. Yeah. What do you think of the whole virus situation? Like we could be getting our vaccines soon. We could all be all right. You never know. Bill Gates could be chipping you, like some people think. But I'm looking forward to being back to normal.
Oh yeah, can't wait.
I mean, the thing is, my degree back home was marketing in commerce, and I'm pretty good at sales. I ended up working in sales for a drug company in Dublin. I won't name the drug company, but I really learned inside the belly of the beast that drug companies are there to make money, and
You see that in the States the whole time. Big pharma.
Exactly. The main seller was a painkiller, and they couldn't sell enough of it, and they were always trying to put promotions on this painkiller and get rid of it. And I remember asking in a sales meeting once, are we expecting the population to rise here? How are we supposed to sell more of this painkiller? You know what I mean? And that was their viewpoint. Like, they're there to make money. This vaccine is a product. It's worth billions and billions and billions. And frankly, I won't be taking it if I can. I feel that what they will do is corner you in a situation. They won't let you travel. They won't let you meet up with people, or they'll figure out a way of imprisoning you if you don't, and that's kind of scary. I think it should be your free choice. If you feel safer taking it, take it, and if you don't, don't. But don't let's not try and divide the world, because I feel this COVID-19 is keeping everyone separated. It's keeping people divided, and people forget to look at what's actually going on in the background. Some of that might actually be going on in the background, you might know for about 5 to 10 years time in the future, and you can look back on it. But a lot of it is to keep people in power, to keep them there, and keep everyone else divided. So I don't know. I really hope things go back to normal, because I think the massive shifts in power have already happened. So what more do they want out of people? Do they want to completely enslave people? Maybe. But I'd like to hope that things move on pretty quickly, because there's nothing sadder than people having a loved one in hospital, they can't visit them, people having funerals, they can't visit them. But like if I was to die, I hope you guys can put this on tape and say that he wanted to have his funeral in the local Super Value, because if I have it in the local Super Value, then I'll actually have a crowd at it, and maybe they'll have a few goujons as well, and they might say a few words over the intercom, because you can do that, but you can't have a funeral in a funeral home. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of weird stuff. You're watching sports there where like boys are playing on the field, they're not wearing masks, obviously, because you die if you're wearing a mask on the field. Inhaling that carbon dioxide the whole time. But the game's over and they're wearing them again, and I don't know. It's just none of it makes sense. And that's what's scary about it. A lot of people are losing their mind and not thinking. Just think rationally. There's no need to wear latex gloves and a mask in your own car. You know what I mean? It's weird.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's also the thing of bad management. So like we've had a few things that don't make sense, or our government saying one thing and doing another. They said there was never going to be like, stage 2.5, 3 3/4 kind of stuff. But we've been experiencing that ever since the second lockdown, or ever since it started getting a little bit worse after the summer. Like for a while there, you couldn't go and see someone in a different house, kind of thing. Like so someone who wasn't living with you, and you could only leave your house for education or work, and that was pretty rough. But I think we're out of that as of today.
Yeah, we're back to level 3 now.
Yeah. I still don't know the story. I don't know if it's 3.5, 3 3/4.
Something like that. We can go back to the shops, and we can go for things outside food and stuff like that. But like takeaways, sure, like we've been living off takeaways, Fuck.
There you go.
Continue.
Well, I mean, it's a bad state of affairs when some of the unhealthiest things you can do, like go to McDonald's, is kept open, but like a fitness center is kept closed, and guys can't be part of football teams, or elderly people have a lot of, for example, they have groups that they meet up with and do bingo and cards and this, that, and the other, and they don't have social media to distract them, and I think that's very, very sad. I know I have a couple of friends that are in their late 70s, and I know them through the likes of the Mayo Association out here and stuff. And in fairness to them, they've tried to live as normally as they can, because they don't have anything else, only their friends and only their meetups and their coffees and this, that, and the other. And they've worked hard their whole life. They don't want to live in captivity and then just die. They'd rather take the risk. And fair play to them, because there's been an awful lot of suicides with young people, male and female, over the last couple of months, and no one's talking about it.
Yeah, there was a certain point where we had more suicides than COVID deaths in Ireland, and that was an awful, awful sight.
Yeah, of course.
I know the side effects of this thing are going to last a long time. Like they're talking on the radio. I was going up to college, and they're saying that it was like over 2,000 cases of cancer were overlooked this year, because we're worried about COVID. Now, I think COVID isn't going to kill you as fast or as painfully as cancer would.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd definitely be prioritizing that. But don't know. And that's just one thing. That's cancer. What else was overlooked that we're not talking about? What are the effects of this over a certain amount of time? If we're in lockdown again until next Christmas, and we're dealing with this for the next 5 years, all the things that were overlooked, it's not going to turn out very well. The
way I see it is this: is that there's been a lot of people that have died during COVID, and all the concern was when they died was that they were searched high and low to see if they had any COVID in them or traces of COVID to be put on another stat for being COVID. I think that's very, very strange. A lot of the hospitals around the world have been left empty because people are afraid to go there in case they catch this disease called COVID and maybe dying at home. So the whole thing is upside down. And even by talking it, you'll have certain people, raising their eyebrows or whatever else. And that's fine. But just if people could just look at it more logically, because at the end of the day, if you know your history, you'll know that, most governments have lied to their people throughout the ages. And that's why wars have been caused, and that's why racism happened, and that's why slavery happened. So I don't believe that this is completely innocent of man's interference.
Sure. And you can think that you can still go around, wear your mask, do what you want. It's here, gotta live with it until we don't. So however way you go about it and you feel safest, power to you.
Of course.
So does that mean everyone listening now should go and take off their mask? Burn their bras? No. Or burn your mask. Why do I say bra? Burn your mask? No. You may carry on, put it on if you want to. Maybe not listen to a podcast, in all fairness. We're not that dirty. But, whatever makes you feel safe.
Exactly. Whatever makes you feel safe. But there's no need to...
the kind of people who are like, oh, you're 1.99 meters away. Go away. No.
Well, my favorite WhatsApp picture going around, I tweeted about it, was a picture of a COVID officer. So he was some man, or it looked like a man from the back, wearing a Viz vest saying COVID compliance officer, and he wasn't standing on one of those 6 feet apart little stops in a store. So that's my favorite picture going around. I mean, look, honestly, the only reason I suppose we ended up talking about it is that it's shaping every minute of our lives every day. So I hate talking about it though at the same time, because it just infuriates me, because you'd like to think that you've got some power left in the world, and you've got, you're able to, manifest your own route in life, and you're not being told what to do. But when it comes to, like, you can't meet up with family, you miss out on funerals and weddings and, real events and births and this sort of thing, that stuff that actually matters, and you can't meet up in a group, and you can't go to games, and,
it's very dehumanizing.
Yeah, the heart of the community is ripped out of it because people can't physically meet up. And, I was teaching, 80-year-olds how to use WhatsApp, in a local group, because they wanted to use it. In fairness, fair play to them for wanting to use it, because that's the way the world is going. But it's kind of sad they can't meet up with their friends. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Look, hopefully we get through it. They're talking about by spring we should be doing a bit better, and even late this month they want to start actually giving it to people, like the vaccine.
Yeah, we've ordered like 800,000 of them now.
Like me and you or the government?
No, the government. Why would we order? Jared, will you shut up, man?
You need to be more specific, man.
Where do you think? Do you know we're not getting paid that much by Manscaped now, man? 800,000 vaccines. Good luck to you.
Shout out to Pfizer, Thomas. Shout out to Pfizer.
Shout out to Pfizer, sponsor of this video. They're not. Anyway,
you might get them to us sooner, because I'm looking to go on a date with a girlfriend.
Shout out to Pfizer.
I also think it's been annoying. I haven't been able to go out So,
Jared, you touched on your love life there. If you want to talk, you can talk to Uncle Paul here, and we'll try and give you a few tips.
Oh, tell me to go on a TV show about it, yeah?
Hey, listen, it worked. I'll tell you one thing. It was actually hilarious. It worked. You go on there and you end up sharing a sheep, and people love you. So it worked. I don't know what the equivalent is of 2020, but that's going back a few years now.
Zoom calls.
I can imagine it's kind of funny, though, where if you're single in 2020, you kind of can work it that you get away with, like, taking the girl out for a restaurant meal or whatever, because there's nowhere to go. So maybe you move quicker to the next base. I don't know.
Well, there you go.
COVID helping relationships since 2020.
Oh, yeah, fair play to him. But yeah, you've been a producer, and you've been a manager, and you've been a director. But we're going to just touch on the producing and directing, because it's very weird for people to have to be involved in all these things. We talked about this with Sam Quasman yesterday. He does everything, and you're kind of the same. You're an actor, you're a producer, you're a director, you manage people, and you've also done radio. So you're kind of doing everything. What's it like being a producer and a director?
Well, the producing and directing, it comes in
Sounds like a
hand in
headache.
hand. Yeah, I mean, it is, but you see, usually it's on more, shorter films that would be sent in for the, film festivals. And it's a small team anyway. It's a small crew. And sometimes it makes it a lot easier because you can organize the whole thing with a few phone calls, WhatsApp messages, and you cut out a lot of the nonsense that might be on a big shoot, because there's a lot of positions filled by people that you kind of wonder, what are you doing here? Like, you're the third ass kisser to the creative director, and you organize.
I know the story.
Who's wearing their masks or whatever it is. I don't know, but so with the short films of producing and directing, one that I finished recently is called Push, and it's thoroughly enjoyable one to record. It's the age-old cops and robbers story, set in 2020 in the cities of Montreal and in Toronto, and that was thoroughly enjoyable. And an upcoming one is going to be called Butterfly, written by John Thomas Gauthier out of Ottawa, and I had some influence on the script there, and the directing will be pretty fun in that one, because again it's a small crew, but we have more of a stamp on everything that comes out of the other side. You know what I mean? So honestly, it's a lot of work, but it's fun, and it's media is all encompassing. So if you can see things from different viewpoints, it helps to bring the whole thing alive a bit easier.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose if you know every stage of it, you can function better in it.
Yeah.
That makes sense naturally.
A man of many talents, I can see. I'd love to see it. Not just a pretty face.
Not just a pretty face, but yeah.
Well, thanks, boys.
But I suppose when I think of a director, I think of like it being such a headachy role. People not really working the way you want them to. What's that been like? Like, because you're essentially a manager of all these people, trying to get your vision across. And you're a writer as well, yeah.
So I'm writing a script at the moment. I can, keep you abreast of it as we move along with it. Doing it with an actor here in Toronto. It's more of a sitcom based idea, and this will be my first one. It's pretty enjoyable. With the directing side of things, you're more of a manager, and I think if you've managed in the real world, as they say, whether it's been in sport or maybe in a department or a full-time role that you carried, which I did do, it kind of makes it a bit easier because you're just managing people, and if you can get the most out of people, it's the same thing. It's just that this time, the team is a crew, and we're in film, and the guy with the sound boom is just as important as the actress that's about to deliver a few lines in a pretty tense scene. So it's enjoyable. Is there a lot to learn? Of course there is, but like when you enjoy doing it, it comes so easy to you. It's like you guys, what you're doing there with the Awful Irish podcast is, it's great work. I know you're saying that it's probably taken years to get to this stage, and COVID luckily pushed you along in the right direction. But what you guys are doing only a few years ago would have taken a full TV station to do, or a full radio station to do. And that just proves to you that things have been more streamlined. And does it mean there's more work for the people involved? Yes, it is. But it's kind of the way things are gone. The bigger institutions are crumbling, and the smaller, fresher, more contemporary ideas are flourishing. So what COVID has done, it's either COVID has completely slowed things down and killed them off, or sped up things massively, like the likes of technology. So you have to ride the wave of that, and I think you boys are doing that at the Awful Irish podcast. And I think when you're making short films, documentaries, or whatever you want to put out there as a story, you are now dealing with a smaller crew and a smaller bunch of actors, and if you have a good bond, it's still going to have a top quality product at the end of the day.
So you say things so poetically, and I'm just stuck in
That's a very nice compliment.
You answer it so perfectly. You kind of leave me wondering. Whereas most people kind of give a bit of That's kind of making this hard today. You're so direct, but I love it. But being a director is like being a manager, and you do both. Now, I know very, very, very little about what it's like to be a manager over stars, and helping them through their career. We've talked to some people who've dabbled in it, but no one who does it like you do. So tell us a bit.
Tell you the scoop. Well, so through, I mean, the beauty of working in this world, and like us three, we're all still part of the same world too, because it's still media, and we're all new media and kind of contemporary side of things. I'm glad I was part of, for example, Irish TV, and I was part of Irish radio as well, because I got to see the old world too. So you got to see how both regimes kind of work out.
Yeah.
And this regime is very fast to production, and it's kind of very fast to moving on to the next thing. You know what I mean? And it's kind of done at warp speed, which is kind of cool. And I suppose technology today is amazing. Like, you guys are in Offaly, and I'm in County Ontario, all the way over here. So, like, it's
Ontario.
It's better reception than calling me on the air cell, and it's amazing. So with the management side of things, it led into music through. When you're in the position of directing and producing in the movie field, everything has to come together. Your sponsors, your visual effects, the makeup artist that might be needed, the props department that might be needed, and the music that might be needed, and what music might suit what. So being involved in that sort of thing, you become searching for music, and when you're networking. And I met with a manager over this fantastic singer who's from Derry. That's County Derry, County Derry. There's no other Derry there, and that's very important to get across, because sometimes it can get corrected. And his name is Niall Sexton.
It's the only word with 6-7 letters.
Exactly. I would never put those letters there myself. I met Martin Mcginnis a few years ago, and honestly, I'd be more awestruck meeting Martin Mcginnis, and I have a few words that was part of an interview, and I still have a few words on my laptop from that chat. And honestly, I'd be more awestruck with him than name any celebrity on earth. And I don't mind saying any celebrity. I don't really care. Martin Mcginnis, I was like, whoa, this is historic. It literally was historic. So I met this guy who's become a friend now, called Killian Sexton. He manages his brother, and they've done an amazing job. Niall Sexton, his name. He was on X Factor back in 2016, being coached by Calvin Harris. And what's her name? From the Pussycat Dolls, big massive name, dating the Formula One driver, Nicole Scherzinger.
Oh, Scherzinger, yeah.
So anyways, long story short, working with the Sextons on promoting Niall. He's an amazing singer, an amazing vocalist. And through another filming I was doing, I met a Dutch DJ who partnered up with another countryman of his, and they created the Disc Walkers, which are a house music group. And I'm looking after those guys more in Ireland, the United Kingdom, and North America, because they're not represented over here. So they've been a part of some of the films that I've been in too, and they've got exposure on this side of the world. On this side of the world, from Europe, is always seen as kind of high end and quality, and the Dutch boys have that in spades, and I'm just pushing them along. On the other side of the world, everything American seems cool. So I think, marketing is a massive thing to play in both sides there, but it works really well. And for example, Niall Sexton heard about this too, and he's interested in working with the Disc Walkers now. So they're actually doing a collaboration. So a lot of it is about helping out contemporary artists too, and like a rising tide, it helps all boats, get there too. So like, that's what we're all part of. We're all part of this new media world. And, as I said, congratulations to you lads, because what you're doing here is you're reaching out to people from all over. I mean, I couldn't believe the array of, actors and, big name personalities that you've had on. And it's a great achievement. And,
Thanks.
that's why I'm glad to be part of this thing, and that's why helping out these musicians as well is a massive. It means a lot to me too. It's not just about money and all that sort of thing. It actually means a lot because you're giving back too, and you're all working together.
Yeah.
So isn't it just amazing? Like the concept of like it's who you know.
No, it is
works so
definitely
well
who
in
you
the
know.
entertainment world. It's so.
We learned that very fast. It was who we knew. Like if we wanted to get to a certain guest, and well, we didn't do it like predatory. Oh, we'll get him on so we can talk to him. It was we talk to someone and then they tell us about someone and we're like, oh, okay, we'll say hi to them and they'll say we messaged their friend, we had their friend on the show and blah blah blah. So it's been handy.
I'm trying to think who could I get on that's pretty cool to help you lads out.
I don't know.
No pressure.
Bono or the lads, I don't mind.
Yeah,
Bono,
Martin
right,
Mcginnis and the lads.
Bono, you know who I'd love to interview is Steve Coogan, Alan Partridge. I think he's hilarious. I think he's hilarious. I'd love to interview him. Becky Lynch.
There's some people I think you have to be ready to interview. We've done 110 interviews, and we're not ready for some people.
No.
Like if you gave us Louis Theroux to interview, I wouldn't have a fucking clue what to say.
Oh Christ!
I would have no idea what to say.
I'd love to talk to what's his name, Sacha Baron Cohen, fucking dream guest right there.
Wouldn't have a clue what to say.
I love Ali G.
It would look so silly. I feel like for us as podcasters, we kind of got to work our way up in terms of confidence.
Yeah.
To get to these kind of people.
100%.
Yeah, I don't know why you're starting at the top, but
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Someday,
Of course.
As you decline in your career, like many great Bill O'Hurley, Gabe Byrne, these people, as you decline, you might get Louis Theroux on or The Rock or
your story.
So.
Nah, sure. Wherever they're doing, like at the time, The Rock might be.
I don't know. Has The Rock ever done a podcast ever?
Probably.
I think The Rock.
For most people, if not on Joe Rogan, they're never going to do a podcast.
You think?
Well, I suppose like some people go on there and it makes their career for them. We had a guy on and he came on to us before he's going on Joe Rogan. He's doing like a podcast tour, so we can help promote for it. But he's so hyped about it. Like for some people, it's just like an end goal nearly to be on Joe Rogan.
Well, I've got a director's. I've got a friend that's a director based out of Alberta, and he has Joe Rogan's phone number in his phone. So we're all connected.
Not too bad.
And it was so funny. I remember we were out one night for a pint, and I go, I don't know why I said, no, you don't. Whatever. So he gets his phone from a distance. It was funny because he's well acclaimed himself, and he's done a lot of big stories himself, and he's opened up and he's been on the big screen. He's done a lot of big documentaries, and it's funny. Even he was kind of a little bit secretive about it. It's kind of funny. I still got a picture though.
It's a similar feeling when we have people on Skype. We used to format this on Skype because we could have Thomas act as kind of like the Jamie from Joe Rogan. He could go and search anything at any moment and share it. It was a lot faster than on Zoom. But when you add someone on Zoom, you keep the contact. So, when we were getting maybe 50 episodes in, I'm looking at this like, well, I'm getting to starting to rack up some names. And, I could call this lad anytime or so on. Probably block me now, but,
Hang on 1 second. Let me just remember that. I'm going to block.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but it's deadly sometimes having your little connections in brackets. Yeah. So yeah, I feel like we talked about everything we could talk about. Unless you want to, I know you have a very famous clip of a 20-second knockout you did, and as a boxer, I want to ask you a little bit about the Tyson versus Jones fight.
Sure.
So, what do you think the story was there? Some people are saying, and some people are really nailing down that they think it was just a cash grab and that they're going to keep at it as long as there's money, or they did it just for the fans or for the charity. What do you think? And who do you think won?
Who do I think won? I love the fact that they put it down as a draw.
Well, they agreed to do that before they started.
Yeah, but still, everyone at the end was still watching going, oh, are they going to announce a winner? Because it's sport at the end of the day. And I know we're part of the generation of little Johnny gets a medal and he came 10th. You know what I mean? It's sad. So but having a draw, I still didn't believe it till it was over. I was like, oh, give us, let us know who won. If you were watching at the end, you would have said Mike Tyson was in better shape, and you would have said that he weathered the fight a lot better, and there was times when he looked like he was more on top. Jones got a few good hits in, but didn't carry the swag or the confidence that Mike Tyson carried. So I would have given it to Mike Tyson, to be honest with you.
We're on the same page.
100%.
What I can say though is that for someone like who has a very competitive attitude when it comes to sport, especially, is that it's hard to give up the buzz of sport, because it's very hard to replace that buzz with anything else. It's even harder to replace anything that's more beneficial to your health, to put it mildly. So I don't think them boys will stop till they're told stop, especially Mike Tyson. I feel like it's probably going to do this bravado thing where he's going to, it's like almost like a music where they cross promote. Calvin Harris started off as a good DJ, just like David Guetta, and then they cross promoted with every pop singer known to man and became shit. Big shout out to Calvin. But like, I don't know. I don't think they'll stop. I think they will genuinely keep fighting. There'll be Mike Tyson will call out maybe someone that just retired, like Pacquiao or Mayweather or something, and here we go again. And all it says is to the men of 2020 is that stadia, like maybe we don't produce any fighters anymore, which obviously we still do. But I don't know. Why do we have to keep rerunning? It's a bit like the way we talked with the Irishman. Why do these actors still having to go on when their career is done?
I suppose it's because people are living longer and they don't want to give up.
Yeah.
As an athlete, you really don't want to retire.
No.
Ever, because especially if you're enjoying it. Like, do you think if you had the opportunity, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't give up sport at any point. But if there's any way you can keep it going, you would. So
the beauty of sport is that you can always, if you have a family, help out your kids' team at the very least. You know what I mean? Or at a high level, you can become a manager. And then there's certain sports, for example, like I started doing the strongman because I'll never do golf. As you can do it a bit longer. Some of the strongest guys at the competition I was at, they aimed for a deadlift of 1,000 pounds, and these guys, yes, they didn't look like the ordinary Joe Soap on the street. But to lift 1,000 pounds, and I was like, Jesus Christ, you really are among giants here that were extremely humble, and that was their thing. But these guys were well into their late 40s, because you can go longer. Golf, for example, wouldn't suit me because it's just too boring, to be honest with you. And I know that you're from the home of, a legend. I met him once, Shane Lowry, and like he'd done massive things for Ireland. It's just not a sport that floats it with me. I might have seen the highlights, and that's about it. But massive respect, because he could have gone down the route of other lads and played hurling and whatever else and maybe done well in that. But he became a big name on planet Earth for being a great golfer, and fair play. I think just do the things you like doing, and as you get longer, as you get on longer in life, you're totally correct. It is harder to give it up, but I think there's a way of doing it gracefully too, because what's the point Mike Tyson going into the ring and getting, is it even real? Because he can't get bet up badly because they're well protected. So I what's all the hype about? It's odd. It's odd, but it's.
If you think that was bad, Evander, what's his name again?
Yeah,
Evander
Holyfield, yeah.
He's coming back to fight next year. He's 58 right now. He'll be 59.
Yeah.
Almost a 6-year-old in there fighting.
Yeah.
Now I thought Mike Tyson was okay because 50 is the new 45.
Yeah.
So I said, all right, maybe one last fight you can squeeze out of him. He'll be fine if he really prepares for it. But with Evander, that's just crazy now. That guy's nearly 60.
They'll have fucking George Foreman in there next time, making fucking sandwiches for everyone.
Oh, God.
Well, I think, Thomas, you got that half right. There'll be toasted sandwiches over just standard sandwich. But, you have a president of the US that has Alzheimer's. You know what I mean? So I think nobody wants to give up anything. Which one? The incoming one.
Yeah, there's a lot of people saying these. A lot of people try to defend that to the teeth. Okay, let's see what he does. And I live in the States. All I do as a European is I get to eat my popcorn, watch and laugh. Leave him to it. If it turns out he's doing terribly, I don't know what they do from there. I know he's had 2 brain surgeries.
They never get rid of a president, so he's going to stay there. But at the end of the day, look, it's not the president that calls the shots at the end of the day. It's the people behind the curtains. So,
and the people.
If he's doing badly, the best thing they can do is pick a country and bomb the shit out of it, because that's what they've done in the past. So, they'll probably do that again. So,
Yeah,
like, in fairness to Trump, he didn't do that. So there's a lot to be said for, for peace. And I think sometimes when bad stuff is done on such a scale that it's nearly laughed and joked about, but it's not, it shouldn't be, it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So I just hope there's no war. That's all I hope, because it's just such a waste. Every
You're
single
hoping
war
we
has
don't
been a
want,
waste, and more of them to come will be too,
We don't want anything bad to happen ever.
God.
Ever again. After this year, you want nothing. 2021, it better be the complete opposite of this year. It better be just absolute madness on the sesh every single day. No hangover as well. That has to be included in the deal. No, you just want like a party of 2021. You want it to be amazing in comparison to this year.
When the ploughing championships don't run ahead, and they've ran ahead through the worst weather known to man, and they go.
I got scared when that was cancelled. I got very scared.
Because hardy bucks that go there, you know what I mean? So they never cancel. When they cancelled, especially up your part of the world, like, it's always held up around Offaly, Laois, Kildare. The good land is, and that got cancelled. It's like, things are gone wrong, and that's what kind of upset me. I don't know why they went ahead with the GA when the GA is just about the fans. Really, it's mainly about the fans at the end of the day, because the fans give so much to the organization in terms of, sweat, blood, and tears, and money, and it still went ahead. Fair enough if the NBA want to run special camps and run off their games there, that's fine. But in an amateur side of things, it should have not ran ahead, like, for example, the European Soccer Championships, which didn't go ahead, and they outlined that very early in the year, and then you could plan, So I don't know. I don't understand why some goes ahead and some don't.
Yeah, it was kind of heartbreaking. But yeah, it's, what went ahead and what got cancelled, kind of. I got scared at the beginning, everything being cancelled.
Yeah.
Myself and a few lads were going to do a bit of filming for like a kind of a Hardy Bucks knockoff, but not like directly. This is before I ever spoke to those guys as well, so I've kind of changed my idea a little bit out of respect for them. But we're supposed to incorporate St. Patrick's Day into it, but then St. Patrick's Day got shut. Our parade got shut down, like, and heartbroken at that point, because at the time it was only like 3 people in Ireland had it, and you're thinking, sure, look, it'd be grand. It's like everything else that happened before, and then now we had the thing with like thousands per day pretty recently. Kind of sucks.
Yeah, this is the thing, especially in rural Ireland, when you have events that are cancelled, it takes the heart out of it, and that's what's tough. And they mean a lot to people, and it's our fabric of our culture. Everything from the All Ireland Sundays to the ploughing championships to like Oxygen and Witness Music Festivals, Slane Castle. You could go on and on. Climbing Crow Patrick. Had to get a Mayo one in there, and they're very important. And then this sort of thing comes along and ruins it all, and shuts all these small businesses down at the same time.
Tell you what,
so
there's lads who still get through it. Like when you couldn't leave your county, what the lads from Hardy Bucks did is they ran the border of Mayo for charity, like.
Yeah.
So there's still some community stuff going on. They said the whole way people were coming outside waving at them and offering like tea and biscuits to come in or whatever. But obviously that they keep going. But there's still some great things happening out there.
How many times did they stop for tea and biscuits along the way?
Not that many. Maybe like twice every hour.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I haven't a clue how often they stopped.
They did say that they ran, but they were walking a little bit, and there was a school coming up, and they saw a load of kids waving. They thought, "Oh fuck, we're gonna have to run here."
Yeah.
Started sprinting along then.
What I love about 3 Bucks Left is that they're so honest. With what they're doing. Like the cause they ran was for the Mayo Roscommon Hospice, and like they've done a fantastic job. I just want to give a shout out to the boys here, because they're comical lads, but they get a lot of people following them like for real, because they're so genuine about what they do, and they give a lot of good out there, and like that was great. And it was genius too, because being stuck in rural Ireland when you're kind of locked up is tough. So they found a novel way out of it at the same time. So winners all round.
Yeah. Like I was saying, there'll never be another Hardy Bucks. There'll never be a group of lads that do something like that again, well, you may try, but it won't be them. Here we've talked to them multiple times, said, lads, what's the story with the next season? Is it happening? And I think it might. You know, they're kind of dropping hints every now and then. We get them on. Need to get them on again for an update.
I had Owen Colgan on the radio, and one of the other station managers went absolutely mental and said, "Get that effing fool off the radio," because he was telling some great stories. Actually, I ran this event in Westport. It's called the Sea to Summit, and it was ran every year. Again, it got cancelled this year, but it was an adventure race event. And I remember Martin Maloney tipped me on the shoulder, aka Eddie Durkin, the night before the event. "Cheers, lad. Are you doing this as well?" "I am." He goes, "You want to be giving me a handle on the way," or whatever else. So I met him the day of the event, and he was struggling. But he was honest about it, you know, and he finished it, to be fair to him. You know, they're just characters, you know, and I think there's a lot of characters around the West, and you know, I know that you had the Sir Steve on, you know, the Everton maniac.
He's on again soon.
You know, there's a lot of, I don't know, there's a lot of characters. It's a fun place to come from. Who knows? I'd love to see. I remember Pure Mule from Offaly. Remember Pure Mule on RTE?
No.
I'd say I haven't a clue
that show.
But there was a lad who was in our class until he dropped out to work on the farm, and you know he called himself that, and I had no idea why, but he was about 4 foot something, and he was the hardest lad you'd ever see. But yeah, go on, tell us who the Pure Mule is.
Well, Pure Mule was shot out of Offaly a few years ago. It was on RTE, because I know you guys said you were doing a kind of a show that was similar to the Hardy Bucks. I believe there will be another show like that again, and hopefully it's you boys, and it'll be entertaining. And the Hardy Bucks is like echoed a lot of rural Ireland, and that's what lads love about them.
That's why I love it.
Yeah, whether they're from South Armagh or North Cork or West Mayo, they're all cool.
Live in a bog. There's nothing around. I don't relate to anyone in Dublin. You know,
exactly.
It's surrounded by muck.
But you're not getting back to it. But like, you're not sponsored by Bord na Mona. You've made a step up, and you know, it's you're getting out of that. You're more modern, moving forward. But Pure Mule, there you go. I used to have a Honda lawnmower. Look what you have. Like, my Honda lawnmower drank a lot of petrol. I don't know what you charge yours off, but like, Pure Mule was basically like a softer version of Love Hate, but a harder version of Glenroe, shot in a fair city that would have been shot in Offaly, if you get me.
Oh, yeah.
Fair enough.
I love that I actually remember this, because I haven't seen it in God knows how long, but that's what it was. If you can work those three out, you know?
Yeah, just kind of figure that out there.
It's good.
Yeah.
YouTube it.
Yeah.
As the man said.
Yeah, definitely love all the TV shows about Ireland, but outside of Dublin, because it's hard to relate. It's hard to find something to relate to. Now, you watch different shows from all over the world. It's hard to relate to, but then you see something like the Hardy Bucks, and you know, I'd say you relate more because you're from Mayo. You know, it's hard to find something that works for you.
Yeah.
So
like, there's a million shows about New York, but
yes.
How many about like Mayo? One.
Listen, and it's the best one. You know, I've friends from all over the world. Like, I'm Mr. International, and I've made them watch the Hardy Bucks. Some of them get it, some of them don't know what's going on. Some of them think we're all insane. I think they're all right. But the most recent one that I directed and acted here in Toronto, called Push, actually told a lot about a certain type of people coming to a city like Toronto, where there's a massive blend and mix of nationalities. And then when you watch it, it hasn't got the American slang that you guys would be familiar with. It's got a different slang. And many of it actually comes down to the likes of patois, which is a kind of a Jamaican slang or language, mixed in with English, mixed in with North American, mixed in with some French Canadian style accents as well, with an Irish guy as a cop, because you do. And
it sounds like it's very hard to listen to.
It's very, very interesting, because it reflects the city more honestly, just like how the Hardy books echoed rural Ireland, Glenroe echoed Ireland at that time. It was some of the scandal that went on in Glenroe would have been laughed at today. Fair City echoed simpler Dublin and more closer Dublin a few years ago. Now Dublin's became too cosmopolitan, I suppose, for Fair City, but I think again you're telling stories, and these characters are coming alive and telling of a time when that can't be done any longer. Obviously, it kind of moves on to something else. And I think one of my most favorite shows from back home, because I was living in Dublin at the time, was Love Hate, because it really told a very honest side of the glamorous criminal world, which turned out not to be so glamorous after all. And I think that was a great message to put out there, especially for some of the vulnerable in society that might have been going down that road. So you have to commemorate a lot of those actors and directors and that for telling these honest stories. So there's always room for more, so I'll be looking out for your own, boys.
Well, hopefully it comes to fruition. But sure, look, see what happens. Now, we planned for about an hour, but we're in here an hour and a half. So myself and Thomas are going to get to bed at some point. But before we head on, tell us a bit about the stuff behind you.
Tell us about the stuff behind me. Well, it's an interesting setup here. I know you boys be interested in some of the props we have here. For example, these old cameras. They're pretty nifty. They've become these sort of vintage. This camera is from the 1920s, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
So, really cool.
That's really, really cool.
That's awesome.
I'll try and do a Zoom call on that. I've got Gertha 47, which is Irish athletic wear with the
Put it
American.
close to the camera.
This has got the Canadian flag on it here.
Oh, that's cool.
So what we started doing was Gaelic football gloves. That's why we've got the football on the side, and kind of expanded more into other sports. So we're in strongman as well, and we're in skateboarding too with more of the apparel side, and we're still making Gaelic gloves. We sponsored a few of the county players back home in ladies and men's football, and it's going well, and it's an interesting field to be involved in, and I've got some good help with that too. So it's the idea behind it is the name is called Gertha 47 because it relates back to kind of obviously the name Hunger. 1847 was one of the toughest years in Ireland, but it also was kind of the birth of the Irish name going across the world, and having a diaspora across the world that are very tightly knit and tightly kind of adoring of Ireland, you know what I mean? So there's a great diaspora, that kind of always want to be connected with home, and I know that that's going to be reflected a lot this year in terms of the lack of travel. But as I said, going back to the local radio and stuff, people still tune in, and that's why I think what you boys have here is fantastic with the Awful Irish podcast, because you can really kind of capitalize on people across the world that want to be associated with something great from back home too. So that's what the brand Girth 47 is all about as well. So it's I said it's only new. We're only on the go just about a year now. So
if people want to see it, where can they find it?
Girth 47 on Instagram, and we're basically keeping it nice and easy there. Just shoot us a DM and we can sort you out there, and you'll probably see it with some of the great Mayo players wearing it in Croke Park coming up too.
Oh, there you go. Is there a website in the works, or is there a website?
There is a website. We've had some technical difficulties with the website, so we're doing it Instagram right now. There always is. But as I said, when you have a small company, it's a lot of man hours, and you just got to make it. You got to make it work.
Yeah. So, Paul, this has been great. If people want to check you out and they want to keep up with shit, where can they find you? Yeah,
so I suppose my handle on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube is PolJoy32, POLJOY32. And hopefully you'll see me on screens. My plan for the next while is to focus mainly on games. There's a game coming out soon that I'm involved in called Konami. So I'll be a character in that game. And I can't say much more about it right now, but it's pretty exciting to be in the virtual world.
Is Konami made by Konami?
So
the
Konami,
company.
So Konami would have brought out, the infamous Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah, big
Back in the
fan.
day.
Oh, wow.
So they have a new game coming out now as well. So I'm a part of that as one of the characters, and I'm really looking forward to that sort of thing because the gaming world has really gone through the roof in the last few years. So you can be a character in many different forms now.
Yeah,
100%,
really
yeah.
got on from the Red Dead games, and he said it was one of the most fun things he ever did. And people seem to memorize game characters a little bit more romantically than they would TV or movies. So hopefully it does well for you.
Yeah, I hope so too. It's fun. I remember years ago playing the likes of Grand Theft Auto, and what I used to find hilarious again was the radio nerd in me. Was that as you borrowed a various car, you went from a Porsche to a pickup truck, the radio station changed, and some of the adverts on those radio stations are hilarious, and some of the tunes on those radio stations are hilarious. So much so, I was in Moscow a few years ago and ended up in a radio museum. Because I just was fascinated by the all things radio and the first form of kind of communication. And there, like, who knows where things will go, but being part of games is as futuristic as you can get right now, and it's a growing industry. So looking forward to it.
Looking dive deep into it,
Hell yeah.
and hopefully it does well for you. So if everyone enjoyed listening, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, tell your grandma about the podcast, and take it handy.
Look.